That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about Shotgun Wedding, the third feature directed by Jason Moore, which Amazon Studios is releasing January 27, 2023.
The director?
Graced us with that film many love called Pitch Perfect in 2012.
Oh.
I think he's produced the sequels. And also Sisters, another mediocre film starring Tina Fey and Amy Poehler from 2015.
I didn't care for this one.
No, it's yet more nuptial nonsense starring Jennifer Lopez. Are these the only kind of scripts that she's being fed? And
I feel like she's limited because she doesn't want to be seen not looking her best. So it's like she has to either be done up for like a wedding or be a pop star. Or, I don't know. I've said this before. Until she's ready to be more vulnerable with her aesthetic, she's going to be in these dumbass movies.
After last year's Marry Me, there's of course The Wedding Planner, Monster-in-Law. It's like, we've seen this side of her.
The basic story, well, you described it as like Ticket to Paradise meets
The Lost City.
But like lower budget.
Yes, which is surprising because this was shot by Peter Deming, who recently lends The Menu, which we both like, but also was the cinematographer on Mulholland Drive and many other films. And I think it was sad to me that this seemed so cheap.
So J-Lo and Josh Duhamel are a couple about to get married on a private island in the Philippines, and they've brought their family members there to celebrate.
Her name's Darcy Rivera, and he's Tom Fowler.
And right before they're about to like walk down the aisle, like onto the beach, or it's like the poolside, whatever, everyone's ready to go, but then Josh and J-Lo sort of, like, she texts him and he thinks she wants to call it off. They get into a fight, and while they're arguing, pirates show up to take the group hostage, to presumably rob them. So the bulk of the film is J-Lo and Josh trying to like save their friends, and they end up getting captured and released, captured again. But we find out that this is not a random hostage situation. These pirates are there to rob J-Lo's dad, played by Cheech Marin.
Mm-hmm.
We're told that he's worth $60 million and the pirates want $45 million, wired to their bank accounts immediately. Mm-hmm. And how did they know they were there? J-Lo's ex, played by Lenny Kravitz, shows up via helicopter, like right before the wedding's supposed to start. He's the one who orchestrated it. And we find out that he's in cahoots. He used to work for Cheech, but Lenny Kravitz is in cahoots with Cheech's new like wife. So it's this elaborate thing.
Harriet, played by Darcy Carden. Mm-hmm.
But of course, J-Lo and Josh get the upper hand. All's well that ends well. They end up getting married on the island after they've defeated the pirates. The end. Super predictable. Not funny. The only good thing about this movie is Jennifer Coolidge.
Yeah. Well, and again, she's doing her thing.
And for an R-rated comedy, it's so odd to me that the only laughs I got were from her.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, nothing else is really funny.
Because initially it was like, oh, interesting. Sônia Braga is playing her mom and Cheech Marin is playing her dad. So they have nothing to do. What a waste of Sônia Braga.
They have nothing to do.
What a waste.
In fact, Sônia Braga's character is, just annoying. My biggest issue with the film, besides it not being funny, and also it feels like this could have been PG-13. It's not edgy or adult in any way to me. There is explicit language. We do see acts of violence, but it's not super gory. Like, we see a grenade being thrown at a couple people and they explode. Mm-hmm. But that could have been off camera.
The one part that I did kind of guffaw at was the demise of Lenny Kravitz as well.
We can talk about that.
Go
ahead.
It was written by Mark Hammer, who previously wrote Two Night Stand for Max Nichols, son of course, Mike. I mean, I feel like a lot of this was probably improvised by some of the personalities, because this shit feels very, incredibly generic. I don't know who's reading this and be like, yeah, we need another movie like this.
Well, my biggest issue is I really didn't like that, Josh and J-Lo seem so incompatible, and the dynamic of all of the people at the wedding party, it's not like contentious. It's just like these people just seem like they don't want to be here. Y'all don't want to be here.
Well, everything is tropes and cliches, because Jennifer's much younger sister, Callie Hernandez from La La Land and Alien Covenant, sleeps with one of the groom's friends, and there's that going on in the background. But it's all so flat and monotonous.
We find out that the people who run this private island and like the villas that are on it, that last summer they were also attacked by pirates, and Josh knew that. So then that's a big like point of contention between J-Lo and he, that why would you book a wedding somewhere that had been like robbed before?
And part of the problem is also he's supposedly overly fussy about planning the perfect wedding, even though he wanted to be in Bali and not the Philippines, and strangely, Ticket to Paradise is set in Bali, which I don't think either of those films were shot. This isn't shot in the Philippines, this is shot in the Dominican Republic. But this was executive produced by Ryan Reynolds, who I think was originally going to star, but then, of course, infamously, Armie Hammer was recused himself from production right before it started because of that drama. And yeah, there is no chemistry, but sadly I think Josh Duhamel does a little bit. I didn't think he was great, but Jennifer Lopez is grating in this.
Well, I think her like physical, like comedic acting is not where it needs to be. And I like her.
I do too.
I have a lot of her music, so I'm a fan. But she is so screechy. It's like nails on a chalkboard.
Yeah, there are moments where she breaks down crying, and then this nice married couple that runs this resort where they're extolling this wisdom that's like, you are too damn old to think that this is wisdom that you should know about already.
She's also really unlikable. Getting back to her appearance, like there's a plot point that she's wearing fake hair that her mother-in-law Jennifer Coolidge wanted her to wear. And I thought it was funny because that fake hair looks so bad. The colors don't match. It's very obvious. And then there's a point where she gets to take the hair off. And I thought it was funny that, because then we see like J-Lo's hair, but then that's also extensions. Mm-hmm. So I thought it was funny that she takes out the extensions to show her hair, which is also extensions. And then she's so done up. Like every scene after they've been running through the forest, like they've just like dropped grenades and been on zip lines. And you can tell that her makeup has been freshly retouched. Like highlighter reapplied, more powder, bronzer. It's like, this is so dumb. You look crazy, lady.
I agree. And even, her gown is kind of like Sandra Bullock in Lost City is in an increasing state of disarray. But also that doesn't quite make sense. Like, you would rip off more of that than you do. But
she does look nice.
Of course.
Yeah.
She's a fantastically beautiful human. She looks great. But it's like, could we see more? Like, if you're going to do this stuff, what else do you have to offer?
A good example of her, like, what I think is mediocre comedic acting is that there's a point when they, like, the first time they get caught by the bad guys, they're on a golf cart being taken back and they're tied up, and J-Lo has the idea, because prior to that they had this idea of like using hairspray as like a flamethrower, so she has sprayed one of the bad guys with hairspray but never ignited him. Mm-hmm. So later on they're in the golf cart and she's begging for a cigarette with her hands tied, and the dummy agrees to give her a cigarette, and she's sitting behind him, so she uses it to light his head on fire. And I think we get a couple scenes where we see him having been burned, which was funny-ish, but then you could also tell like that practical makeup wasn't very well done. But
and also, I forget, they've been together for 4 years. Well, as part of the plot.
Yeah, but getting back to that, like her in that golf cart, like doing it, it was just like, God, you can't even make this funny. Because you're being screechy and like overdoing it. That was weird.
Well, she has a tendency, especially in romantic comedies that she does, to do this kind of little girl thing. That doesn't work well. It didn't work 20 years ago, and it certainly doesn't work now.
When they told us they had been together for 4 years prior to getting engaged, I was surprised. They don't seem like two people who know each other very well.
For the type of cold feet situation that's going on there. And then she has the audacity to take this ring and throw it.
Her wedding ring, she gets upset. And and it looks like a very expensive ring. But we didn't explain. So I don't know. I don't recall what she does for work.
She's a lawyer, I believe.
But she has money because her dad has money, and she's a professional. And then Josh is like a minor league baseball player who has been let go. So then it's important because he catches that ring. Like, how did you do that? And then in the end, it's in the trailer that he like hits a grenade with a baseball bat. But getting to the grenade, there's a scene where like there's a melee and Josh and J-Lo are running, and somehow she ends up with a grenade in her hand that she pulled off one of the bad guys, but the pin is missing. And that dialogue, that exchange where like she doesn't seem to know how a grenade works, and they think that they have to hold on to it
in the jungle.
It's just so stupid. And I know it's trying to be like slapsticky, but it's just like, No.
They are not the ones to pull that off. They are not. But of course, that grenade comes in handy while they're ziplining in a scene.
I will say another amusing scene was, again, it's led by Jennifer Coolidge, where because all of the wedding party is like in this infinity pool being held hostage by the bad guys. And all of a sudden, Jennifer Coolidge gets up and starts talking about who she is as a person. And then she's telling everyone in front of the bad guys so they can hear her, you have to humanize yourself to these kind of people because then they'll be less inclined to harm you. So she's talking about how she's a mother, she's been married for X amount of years. And then slowly everyone starts standing up. And I thought that was funny. But what I was going to say earlier is what didn't work for me is how these people don't seem like they want to be there. I think the better story, an easy adjustment could have been to have a smaller wedding group, have everyone be more likable, and it's just sort of a group of people who are excited to celebrate this couple's wedding, a kooky cast of characters. They get taken over by these pirates, and then the bulk of the movie is all these like sweet, fun-loving people having to go Rambo on their asses. That would have been the better movie.
Right, instead of doing this thing where it's like, oh, her ex is actually better suited for her, and everybody's like instantly attracted to Lenny Kravitz. You know, sure, but Josh Duhamel's not a dog, and they're treating this man like a dog.
Well, they're also making it also about money and success, but if J-Lo is successful and has money,
he's a baseball
why would it
player.
matter that he's not rich?
Or,
I don't know. It's just like, it's making her character seem like she's not a good person, so then I really didn't care for her character. Like if you get hurt, which of course she wouldn't have been killed, but I felt like Josh deserved better than her.
Well, because at the end she forces her parents to apologize to him because they're rude to him, and it's like, well, you didn't think of that before. You've been with this man for 4 years, and you're thinking of that now.
That really bothered
You're trash.
me. That really bothered me that her family is not kind to him and his family. It's like, well, you're choosing to marry him, and you're going along with all this, and I don't know. There's another moment where they sing that song "I'll Be." That was so good.
I was like, what was that used on? It was Dawson's Creek, which I've never watched an episode of, but that felt really random. Like, was that attached to their characters somehow?
Two moments that are funny is towards the end when they're taking over the bad guys. Jennifer Coolidge gets a hold of a machine gun and is shooting. That's a visual you need to see.
That is entertaining.
And then the final showdown is Lenny Kravitz and his accomplice like chasing J-Lo and Josh on this like boat, and there's like a zip line, and because when J-Lo removed her extensions, Josh put them in his pocket.
Oh, the parachute.
And there's a parachute, like he's basically using J-Lo's extensions to zip line down this parachute onto the boat. I thought that was fun, and then that same zip line ends up dragging Lenny Kravitz into like the helicopter blades, and then, but again, it's like it was funny, but it's like that didn't fit the PG-13 corny ass nature of the rest of the movie. So it's just like, ugh.
No, if you're gonna be rated R about a romantic comedy about a marriage, like, let's get real. Can we get real?
Yeah, I feel like the last 10 minutes kind of worked for me, but the first 90.
If Jennifer Coolidge, again, doing the same thing she always does, which is fine with me, because she's entertaining, but you have to keep that in mind. She's just doing her thing. If you removed her from this film,
it would have been really hard.
It would have been real rough, I think, because she's the only little bright spot, and I don't know. It just, again, it made me feel terrible to see Sônia Braga wasted.
I guess if it's streaming and you can have it on the background, and if you're a J-Lo fan, of course you want to see her in anything, but
sure.
What would you give it?
I'm giving it lower than you, but a 1. This was at the end where they finally get married. It's like, congratulations to Mr. and Mrs. Boring, and then we're treated to outtakes that are equally as boring. It's boring.
Yeah, we laughed because it's ironic. Like, this movie was boring, and then the outtakes is just like, well, even like, because it's like J-Lo, like they're having their reception and a band's playing and J-Lo's kind of singing, and she doesn't look like she just doesn't look loose and fun. It's all very like measured,
it feels
and
manufactured,
coiffed, and
yeah. Blah
blah blah. I would give it 1.5 out of 5. Anything else?
No.
Hit the thanks button. Listen to our podcast. Bye.